Hello, my friends. This is the podcast that brings the wealth of knowledge, expertise, and fun of Twin Smoke Shop, New England's premier smoke shop, right to you, wherever you are, whenever you want it. And that's not just blowing smoke. You can find us at our website, notjustblowingsmoke.com, and be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Not Just Blowing Smoke.
Cool breeze in my head, bittersweet smoke flying through the air. It's the way I feel, smoking on a fat cigar.
All right, everybody, that was Jeff Mitchell's Fat Cigar you were listening to, and that means it's time for Not Just Blowing Smoke, coming at you live from our Londonderry headquarters here at the 724 Lounge at Twin Smoke Shop. Be sure you hit that follow button, whether you're watching us live on Facebook or YouTube or listening after the fact on Podbean, Spotify, iTunes, Google, wherever else you get your podcast from, so that you don't ever miss a thing. I'm Pastor Padron. I'm here with my co-hosts, Pat and Dave. We have Bree again with us from the 724 Lounge. And tonight we are talking death and taxes.
Yeah, baby.
It's tax day, baby. And if you didn't know, it may be too late. You need an extension. But before we get into that, we're also going to be smoking this. This is the HVC Black Friday 2020. We went into our vault here at Twins and found some of these still hanging around, and decided we'd bring it out and see how it did 3 years later after its release. It's a Nicaraguan Habano Cafe wrapper, Nicaraguan binder filler. It's a Corona Gorda, 5 5/8 by 46. Frankly, this is one of my favorite sizes now. I love Coronas, Corona Gordas. And Bree, what did you put together for us to drink with this tonight?
So, ignoring the glassware, because it would typically be in one of those fancy triangular stem Manhattan glasses, we are drinking a perfect rye Manhattan. So a traditional Manhattan would have bourbon, bitters, and... Ooh, sorry, I had like a... Anyway, bourbon, bitters, and sweet vermouth. But we are drinking a twist on that because we're using rye, bitters, and a little bit of dry vermouth with the sweet vermouth. So that's what makes it perfect. And the garnish is our beautiful little Luxardo cherry. So Dan and I were talking before this about if we were going to do a rum drink, a spiced rum drink, or a rye drink, and decided that rye might be a little bit...
Yeah, we liked the way the rye acted with the cigar a little bit better than the rum.
Yeah, the rum was almost too sweet for it, whereas the rye brought out some of the spices.
So nothing was a
nicely.
rye. With the guy.
Oh my God.
No, this is a rye.
Yeah, that's why nothing was a rye.
This is a rye.
With the rye.
This is a rye.
It was right.
No, this is a rye.
Right.
So a good pairing is a rye.
Yes.
No,
Yeah.
Or a bad pairing is a... Yeah.
No,
Okay.
yeah.
Depends on how
It's
you...
a good pairing,
Yeah,
and
okay.
yes, it's a rye.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We shall see.
Right.
Oh my goodness. So as we are all getting into this, some earth, almost like some,
Wind, fire.
metallic kind of tastes to the cigar. Some sweetness is there too. What are you guys picking up as we start out on this?
So Dan gifted
Lots
me
of
with
pepper.
one of these when we were picking the pairing, and I got about 3/4 of the way through it, and the metallic flavor was the first thing we were picking up on initially. But right off the first 2 puffs, there was an intense black pepper that mellowed out really nicely, and more of the cedar and like almost a floral kind of metallic.
The
note
room
came
note's
through.
really nice on
Yeah.
this.
There's
The
a
least
subtle
washed
sweetness
wine
on my
stuff.
palate too. But yeah, the pepper right now is insane in the retro ale.
Yeah,
it's definitely.
it's
I
potent.
am getting that tint of like metallic taste in my mouth too.
Your nose is starting to drip too.
But
Pat, you look like you're, really boring into the soul of that cigar. I mean, what are you picking up?
It's like a really dry smoke. I think that's probably where the metallic notes you guys are picking up are coming from. To me, it's like it has like a fruity sweetness to it, which is pretty unique because usually when you say sweetness, you think of just kind of like sugar or just regular sweetness, but this one has kind of like a, I don't know, like a fruit sweetness. I don't know how you would distinguish the difference, but it has more of like a tannin like sweetness, if that makes sense. I don't know, but
Yeah.
like it's
Yeah,
drier,
no,
it has like a little bit of like that bitterness to it.
Like a stone fruit kind of sweetness to it.
Then it has
That
like,
does.
I'll call it wood shavings. I don't know, like that aroma you have when someone's cutting wood. Like it's that kind of sharp, kind of fresh wood to it. Which I think is because of the aging. Because again, it's been sitting for like probably close to 3 years now, I'd say.
Yep.
No, it's good, and then definitely some black pepper there. It's like a peppercorn, and there's something else there too that I'm trying to like.
Definitely a little cedar.
It has like a salty kind of cracker too. Like after you've done the retro, like you have a kind of a creamy note on your tongue, and it's to me it's like a salted cracker.
That's when I get the sweetnesses in the mouthfeel.
Yeah, like a saltine kind of sweetness on the finish.
There's a lot of texture to it.
Mm-hmm. It's funny, on this cigar, I'm not getting as much of that mineral or metallic kind of thing that I was getting in the cigar we had this afternoon. Are you?
Well, I got it right away, but then it kind of like goes away to me. I'm not getting too much of it right now.
What about you, Bree? Are you still picking it up?
No, I mean that's what I'm trying to figure out right now. I'm wondering if the Red Bull or whatever else is distracting my palate. So I took a sip of water.
It's possible that the Red Bull might be distracting
even
your
after
palate.
clearing my palate, it's not quite the same. So I'm curious to see as it gets further down if it'll come back. I did get that saltine flavor on the retro as well, which
See, I don't think it's metallic. I think if you like put the cigar in your mouth without drawing from it, the way the wrapper kind of mingles with your tongue, I think it kind of gives that what you would correlate with a metallic flavor, like that sensation on your tongue when you're drawing from the cigar. But I wouldn't, unless you say like maybe a mineral salt when I start the cracker. But I don't really see many metallic earthy components to it.
misconstrued.
It could be the band too. The band makes you think metallic. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, true.
But taking it with the rye Manhattan, a lot of that flavor is kind of changed. It brings out some sweetness in the cigar, brings out some stronger cedar notes to it. That pepper stays strong though. My nose is still tingling. What do you guys think of the pairing?
It definitely brings out more of like a buttery cream. And then I get more of like a Cajun pepper, like a sweet kind of Cajun red pepper. And the finish has like that kind of sweet leather you get from typically rye, and then obviously corn, like a corn sweetness.
It's funny how
then
the
citrus.
The drink does that. Yeah.
So it introduced like 4 or 5 notes that I had not gotten originally in the cigar. Which is this a Habano 92 wrapper? Is that? I believe that's.
No, it's a it's a Habano Cafe.
Which is, I think that's the 92. I think that's
Okay.
what they call. Aganosa calls the Habano 92.
I'm assuming the cafe refers to the color.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
It's interesting.
it is tax day, so I feel compelled to ask: has everyone done their taxes
As of yesterday.
as of yesterday? Dave, you did yours
January.
early.
Yep.
In January. Pat, did you know it was tax day?
I got my tax return back months ago.
Yeah.
I've had it done for a while.
Oh, that's very good.
Like,
My taxes are done too, but good grief, I got creamed this year.
Oof.
Yeah, this is the first year I have really been in the red as far as the taxes are gone in my half century on this planet. So it's not fun getting old.
Yeah, push out some more babies, or
Something. All my
adopt some Mexicans.
all my tax breaks are getting old. They're all moving out, and going away, and
start adopting.
yeah,
Dan's orphanage.
I need to get some more dependents. Mm-hmm. All right, but I thought, with it being tax day and everything, a good topic of discussion would be talking about cigar taxes and where are the best places in the country, where are the worst places in the country for cigar taxes. And, we're fortunate here in New Hampshire. We're one of the few places where there is no tax on premium cigars. But let me come down here and open this up. So why don't we start with the worst? Let's see here.
Scrolly, scrolly, scroll.
So the worst state for taxes
California.
is Utah.
Wow.
Utah has an 86% tax rate on cigars. So, for instance, if a cigar's MSRP is $9.50, in Utah that cigar is $17.67.
Wow, that's genius.
It's crazy, right? Now, there are several states that have taxes higher than 90, that have higher than 96%. The highest actual tax rate is Minnesota at 95%. But they have a 50% cap. So it only raises the $9.50 cigar to $10.50. Right? And then next would be Washington State, which also has a 95% tax rate, but they have a 65-cent cap on cigars. So, and I've never understood, I guess that tax is on tobacco, period. But premium cigars have a cap on it. Not cigarettes, not other tobaccos, but cigars have been capped so that it's 50 cents in Minnesota, 65 cents in Washington. Vermont.
But just like screw you in Utah.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
There's no cap in Utah. So that 86% is across the board. If it's tobacco, it's taxed 86%.
Been to Utah and I'm not surprised.
Mm-hmm. Those Mormons. Gotta do something about it. Next on the list is Vermont, one of the New England states that's in the top of the list at a 92%
Thank you, Bernie.
tax rate. And there are caps, though. If the cigar retails for under $10, there is a $2 cap. If the cigar retail price is over $10, it's a $4 cap.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So you're getting totally creamed there. So that $9.50 cigar is going to be $13.50 there. And an $11 cigar has that $4 on it, which is, once that's carried into the cost of the cigar, is going to be $8. So it's going to be almost $20 for that cigar. crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then we have Utah. Rhode Island has an 80% tax rate. So there's 2 New England states in there that are at the top of the list, but there's a 50-cent cap for cigars. So again, that 950 MSRP will be 1050 in Rhode Island. So that's not terrible bad. Then there's Alaska and New York, both at 75%. Wisconsin at 71% with the 50% cap, 50 cent cap, excuse me. And then this surprises me. Arkansas, which you would think, why does Arkansas care about tobacco? But they have a 68% tax, but also a 50 cent cap on the cigar. So that's like the top states for the most tax on cigars.
What is a cigar for purposes of a tax cap?
I think it has to be a hand-rolled cigar.
So would infused cigars be
They're
considered?
hand rolled.
If it's hand-rolled, it's and weighs what?
So do they not tax cigarettes the same way there? And
Well, they don't have a tax cap for cigarettes. So they
There's
would
no
have-
tax cap for cigarettes, so that
they don't
whole
buy.
tax.
The 80% would be applied to everything but whatever they distinguish a cigar as.
So if it's machine rolled, it's not going to count for that. If it's a hand rolled thing, and then I think there's a weight to it too. It has to be so many pounds per thousand. But that may vary by the state. I'm not entirely sure. But I know that it's hand rolled versus machine for most of these states here. Now, what's surprising, do you see anything in common with those states?
They're blue states.
We're talking Minnesota, Washington State, Vermont, Utah, Rhode Island, Alaska, New York, Wisconsin, and Arkansas. I think you're right. I think most of them are blue states.
they're pretty rural, most of them, with the exception of maybe.
Yeah, I think they have big city. They're mostly rural, but they have huge big cities
yeah.
in them. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know.
Why isn't New York in that top list?
New York is
I thought they bumped
New
up.
York is in there. New York is at 75%. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And so the top 10 would be Minnesota, Washington, Vermont, Utah, Rhode Island, Alaska, New York State, Wisconsin, Arkansas, and then Oregon, which has a 65% tax and a dollar cap. Now, what's interesting to me is that states that do this, do it with the intention of gathering extra funds for whatever purpose. Is it to fund the care for long-term smokers and their problems? Is it to help the children like the S-chip is? I've always joked that every cigar you buy goes to help the children. So it's your moral duty to have a cigar to help the children. This is for the children, Pat. But it doesn't work. In none of these states does the money collected equal what they thought they were going to collect, because people end up going and getting their cigars from other places or out of state or through mail order. We certainly see that here in New Hampshire, where people from Maine or Massachusetts or Vermont, come over the border to get their cigars where there's no tax.
Sean, people are saying they're hearing an echo. It's feeding into the mics. Yeah. Getting a little bit of an echo, the people on YouTube say.
Okay.
If you turn it down, would it get rid of it, or should you shut it off?
It's too loud in here. I don't know if they're blasting it in there too, but
Probably just a volume.
okay, he turned it down. It should be good now.
So now the 10 states with the lowest tax, and I'll go backwards starting with the highest. Okay, so we're going to start with Ohio. Ohio has a 17% tax, but a 53-cent cap on cigars. So that $9.50 is going to be $10.56. Then you got Kentucky, which has only a 15% tax on cigars. So that $9.50 cigar is going to be $10.93. Maryland, also same thing, 15%. Mississippi, 15%. North Carolina is 12.85%. What's up with that?
I know, why 8.85,
Why 0.85?
Why not just 13 or just 12?
Yeah,
Why not just 10?
That's just weird.
You know?
So their cigar is going to be $10.72 if the MSRP is $9.50. West Virginia drops to 12%. Oklahoma is 12 cents per cigar.
Jesus.
12 cents per cigar. So the
Flat tax,
$9.50 cigar is going to be $9.74 there. So you're almost paying MSRP in Oklahoma. In Kansas, it's 10%. Missouri is also 10%. And the lowest tax state for cigars in the country is Texas at 1.1 cent per cigar. And again, I ask, why 0.1
Well, what's with the mill?
cent? Why not just charge the penny or two? What's up with that? Pat, do you have any idea why that is?
They're an oil state, so they're used to the mills. They're gonna milk everything they get.
So long term probably adds up a little bit more and doesn't seem like a big deal. I'm not entirely sure why they would do a
1.1 cents.
But how do you even charge somebody 1.1?
So the 950 cigar in
When you look
Texas
at like
is
if you buy a
952.
box of cigars, it's going to be an extra couple cents. You wouldn't be paying for the single realistically.
Yeah. Now there are 3 states where there are no taxes at all,
In one municipality.
and 1 municipality. Florida, the state of Florida has no cigar tax. New Hampshire has no cigar tax. Pennsylvania has no cigar tax, and Washington D.C. has no cigar tax.
District of Columbia.
So those 4 places are total tax havens for cigar people. Now there's also exceptions to these state things on reservations, Native American reservations, where taxes are determined by those groups, and typically they're a lot lower, which drives people out. I know in New York State that's a huge thing. You can drive onto the reservation and get cigars and avoid that 75% tax that's in the rest of the state. It makes it very hard for little smoke shops to compete under those things. What do you guys think about the whole tax thing with cigars? Do you think it's, and again, I would say, looking at the bottom list here that we read, I honestly don't know off the top of my head. Are most of those?
Well, I think if our
Red
founding
states?
fathers were here today, they'd be like WTF guys. Like, we left England for like
Taxing tea.
90% less than what you're paying right now. Like, what's going on? Like, hello.
Anyone else?
The only thing I can add to it is I'll take like the legal background to it. One of the historic seminal cases we learn in constitutional law is Marbury versus Madison, and that's where the federal government had started doing the first federal banks. So these banks would be in different states, and it's a case that speaks to federalism and like supremacy, where like the federal government is the supreme rule of the land. States have obviously some power, but federal law is always going to prevail. So what happened is Maryland started taxing the federal bank, and obviously that wasn't okay. So the case, one of the important quotes that came out of there that pertains to just taxing in general, I look at it beyond the supremacy aspect of it, is the Supreme Court had said that to tax is to kill. And the states can't tax the federal bank because the intent behind the tax is to kill the federal bank. So when you look at states that implement some sort of taxation, typically it's to kill. And a lot of those appropriations go to a general fund. I can't speak to what every state does, but typically it's a general fund. So it's not like it's systematically planned where these appropriations are going to go. However, it's just you're making the product more expensive. And I think the reason why you see blue states typically a higher tax rate than conservatives is just naturally, you look at liberal versus conservative. Liberals are more for the supremacy of federal law, where conservatives are typically hands off and they want less government involvement. So I don't necessarily even think that those states are just anti-cigars. I think it's just
That point
it's
of view.
more pro-government, so pro-regulation, and cigars are commonly viewed as a detriment, as a health risk, and naturally these states are more okay with a tax. If you look at a conservative state, typically, even if it's taxing something that you don't even use, typically a conservative person is going to be against any tax because, again, that's more of that government control over you. And then the reason why you see D.C. as a municipality that doesn't have any tax is because obviously it's a federal run municipality, so there's no state laws obviously applying there, and that's what I find to be very interesting, because when you look at the federal government, other than the agencies, which the FDA, which is regulating, it seems to be that the federal government likes cigars. Like look at the what did I read?
Yes, they do.
It was on Half Wheel, like the one of the wings and the Capitol building is allowed to have cigar smoke in the building, which.
But you're not allowed to smoke on government property.
That's it's just it's funny because it's just that's what I find to be funny. So states, the big moral is taxes to kill. So you see states taxing cigars because it's invasive to cigar smoking. Obviously, it's more expensive to get, but so that's really my only 2 cents. When you see states that are like, for instance, New Hampshire, I can speak to the best because Kurt's one of the members of the CANH.
Yep.
And it's, the people that are in Concord are very pro-cigar, and it's a deep-rooted aspect of the history of New Hampshire. Obviously, with the 724 brand, speaks very well. that's deep rooted in American history, but especially it was in Manchester, New Hampshire. So
Yep.
it's a state that favors cigars, which is why we have no tax.
Right.
Which is why
Amen.
what is Connecticut on that list?
Let me get to Connecticut here. Let's see.
Because Pennsylvania obviously having no tax is good because it's a deep rooted, like actually cultivating tobacco is huge in that state's history. So I'm
Connecticut has a
curious.
50-cent cap, but their tax is 50%.
So that's something I find interesting because even in the cigarette aspect of things, tobacco is very deep rooted in that state's architecture. So that's interesting to me.
Yeah, it's funny. I really think it's. I think a lot of people in, government see it as an easy target because most people don't smoke cigars, and it's generally seen that smoking tobacco is bad.
Yeah, I've never
That
understand that kind of
it's
attack.
easy.
It's just,
It's easy to do it.
if you're going to
Who's
tax
gonna
anything at
complain?
all, you should tax something that everybody uses,
Like toilet paper.
or toothpaste, or some mouthwash. If you put like a couple cents on each roll of toilet paper, even just one, you know how much like they could get rid of all the other taxes.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, there's
you wouldn't even have to tax
there's
food.
sales tax.
You wouldn't. You know what I mean? You wouldn't need that.
But what's funny is, I know, Dave Garofalo and two guys, a great example of this. When Massachusetts, several decades ago, decided to implement a cigar tax, he said, "Well, I'm leaving, and I'm going to take all of my customers with me." And he said it, and he was kind of all fired up at the time, but after it was like in print in the paper, he was like, I'm not sure I really should have said anything. But he did. He followed through, and he moved from Everett to Salem, New Hampshire. And the next year, he tripled his business. And that next year in Massachusetts, they made about a third of what they thought they were going to make with the cigar tax. So the whole idea of doing it to make money doesn't work. It doesn't work. Not when you're trying to tax it at such huge things. Massachusetts right now is at 40%. There's no cap on it. So in Massachusetts, that $9.50 cigar is $13.50. And that's before sales tax on the cigar. So it's going to be even more there. One of the beautiful things about New Hampshire is we don't even have a sales tax. So, what the MSRP is what you pay here in New Hampshire, which is wicked awesome. You can't say that in Florida. Florida has no tobacco tax, but there's sales tax. And not only that, a lot of cities or local municipalities also have a sales tax. So, you're going to be paying more than the MSRP, but you're paying a sales tax that's applied to everything, not just cigars.
Yep.
So therein lies the difference. So I've just never understood why the huge, if you think that, putting a 75% tax on a product is going to, it obviously isn't working in New York. It's not like cigar smokers are going away. I mean, and in the United States, cigar consumption has actually increased over the last number of years. So if the goal is to kill it and get people to stop, it's not working. If the goal is to make money for those states, it's not working. So I don't understand, why do you do the same thing over and over and expect a different result? That's Einstein's definition for, insanity.
I think if you look at kind of the quote that I spoke to about like taxes to kill, like it is doing the purpose. Like, you know, in New York, like, say I'm a young entrepreneur and I want to open up a shop somewhere. Where am I going to go? Not New York.
Right.
You know, so, you know, I'm not a politician. I'm not well versed in government when it comes to the political aspect of things. Like the legal aspect, I can speak to, but you know, when you look at these taxes and the goals of the government, I'm sure it's not to, you know, really amp up the general fund and, you know, be able to have all this money, you know, you're getting from these cigars. I think it's to kill the culture. And a lot of these places where these taxes are high, you don't really have like a cigar haven per se. You may have people that, you know, on their own meet up and smoke cigars. They smoke on their porch, on their property. Then, and that's achieving the government's goal essentially by killing that culture. Like, you know, you look at New Hampshire, like, I really don't think there's a bad smoke shop here. Like, I've been to numerous smoke shops other than Twins, and they all have a really unique, different kind of culture, and it's a very accepting culture. But you go, you know, like I can even speak to, I went to the Bone Smoker, and I was looking at different shops in Connecticut, and it's different, you know, because there's a tax there. So it wasn't a bad culture at all, but it was definitely different than New Hampshire. And you look at these states where there's a high tax, yes, people can still go across the border and get cigars for a fair price, but they're not partaking in commerce in that state, which essentially is killing the industry in that state.
In that state, yes.
So I think, you know, that's why Marbury versus Madison, whenever anyone talks about taxing anything, I always mention that quote because it's such a true statement that's aged very well, is whenever you implement a tax or something, it's to kill it. And states often do that, which is what they wanted to do in the case, to kill the federal bank. But as we see today, federalism, but it works. I mean, like, where would you open a cigar shop? You know, you wouldn't go to California to do it, I'm sure.
Nope.
So it does achieve the goal.
To Pat's point, it very much is like a community. Like,
Yeah.
there's certain things that you would consider a niche interest, and even though people look at cigars as a general topic, it's like you can be a cigar enthusiast in New Hampshire and then, you know, travel to Pennsylvania, walk into a cigar shop, and it feels like home because it's the same type of people, it's the same type of atmosphere, same interests, same environment. And so it's like there's certain places that you can go and you can feel like you're at home on that basis of being a part of the cigar community.
And it really does create, like, closet smokers. Like, if you're just buying online, getting it shipped, or... Because, like, you know, I think all four of us can speak to the point of how many times have we had somebody new, the Twins, come in, and they have to ask us twice about there being a lounge upstairs and if they can smoke in the lounge. And it's like they're in utter shock that they can smoke here.
Inside.
Inside the building, you know, and that's, again, look at the goal of the tax and what these states are doing. It's to kill, like, the culture of, you know, when someone comes in, it's like a culture shock. Like, you can smoke the cigar here. Yeah, you can do that. It's like a shock to them because they're conditioned that it's not okay to do that. So when you look at, like, that example, which I see that very frequently, you get somebody from Massachusetts, or now a lot of municipalities in Maine are going through the same thing where they feel that they can't do that, and it's like such a shock to them. Like, you mean I can buy this and walk up 2 flights of stairs and light it up, and wait, I can drink too? Like, you know, so it is working to the government's goal. It is working.
Now, kind of parallel to that, though, in the last few years, I've seen a huge uptick in online-based clubs for cigar smoking, for pipe smoking, for both.
Like the monthly subscription pack?
There's the monthly subscription pack, but there's actual, like, groups, like Barrel Burners, for instance, is a national group that, you know, focuses around cigars and bourbon. They also have a subset within their group for pipes and pipe smokers, and they use the Discord app, you know, but they'll get together and have virtual perfs together on a regular basis, and, you know, there's a whole culture that's going along with that. And a lot of these people that are part of that group don't have smoke shops that are next to them, or it's like they live in a state where the taxes are so high, it's not worth going there, so they'll have stuff sent to them, mailed to them, muled by some person or friend that they know, and work that way. Another specifically pipe related club, Briar Bastards, they're an international club, but they do the same thing. People send them pictures back and forth on Instagram, on Facebook, both those clubs, and trying to build up a online community of smokers.
Yeah, it just goes to the point, tax to kill. Like the government wants that to happen. Like you're in your own house and you're using,
I feel like
virtual communication back and forth. You're not on the streets. People aren't seeing you doing it. You're not going out walking around with a cigar. Like that's the goal. That's what
but
we
I
want.
guess I'm saying, it
feels
is
like
killing the culture, but in another sense, it's creating another culture.
Well, it
Well,
feels
it's
like the
creating
government
a
doesn't
more-
want it to happen.
it's
The
creating a
state
more
governments do.
privatized culture. Like
Yes.
case in point,
yes,
like
yes.
I was in, which is a good thing, utilizing technology, but I
Right.
think in the grand scheme of things, like when it is, getting comfortable, like, one of the things I'll say about the CANH with Kurt, and like, I go to their golf tournament every year, and I talk to Dave, I talk to Eric, everyone that's a part of this group, and they're not comfortable, even though we have no tax, they're never comfortable. They're always looking ahead at like, how do we preserve this, and then states where the tax is very high to the point where you feel like you have to privatize your passion.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's good and bad. I'm not saying it's bad that these groups exist, but
Right.
you shouldn't have to be a part of a group where you're meeting on Zoom or you're sharing pictures to enjoy the passion with other people.
Right.
And I think people get very comfortable in that aspect. And I was going to make a further point of this, but I just completely lost my mark what I was going to say.
Well, I'll give you some time to think about that and talk about something else. One of the reasons I wanted to smoke an HVC tonight, and I was glad we found this box of aged Black Fridays, which is an annual release from them, is we're doing an HVC brunch here at Twins on May 20th, 11 o'clock, out on the deck of the 724 Lounge. Tickets for that are $40, and you're going to get a full pancake breakfast, pancakes, bacon, sausage, fresh fruit, coffee. You're going to get 2 HVC cigars. One, of course, has to be a hot cake. The other one is going to be a special cigar that's provided by HVC, and this is all going to be overseen by Rainier Lorenzo, who is the president and owner of HVC, and he is also going to be capping the brunch with mojitos that he's going to make himself for everybody who attends.
Well, that sounds
And
horrible.
it's really cool because mojitos are a drink that's not normally available here at the bar because of all of the work and ingredients, and no one seems to be able to keep the mint.
We had mint
from dying.
plants, and the
Well, they
mint
do it,
kept
but
dying.
mint, honest, yeah, and like it's not necessarily the labor and the girls and everything, but like mojitos really aren't a common order here, and unless you maintain a mint plant yourself, there is a lot of tentative labor that actually goes into having fresh mint. And when we offer mojitos, we don't just buy mint at the store. We actually have a mint plant, so it's fresh. And it's tough to. There was a lot because when I was bartending last year and we had mojitos, like that plant, like it's like the bane of my existence. Like you got to make sure you got to put it, to get some sun during the
Text
day. You
from
got to bring
Kendra.
it
Make
in.
sure you move
gotta
the mint
water
plant
it.
to
Yeah,
the windows.
like the mint
Pat
plant.
the mint plant. Get the mint plant.
So I will say I have 1 point to make with the HVC event, but I'm going to make the point that I was making earlier before I forget about it again.
Mm-hmm.
So back to the culture and being a closet smoker and everything. So I remember a few years ago, I was in Boston, and my brother. So this was actually much more than a few years ago. But my brother was graduating college. He went to Fisher College in Boston. So we naturally, being a cigar smoking family, what do we want to do at some point? We want to go to Paredes and then go and smoke a cigar. So we get cigars and we go into a park that was, I forget which the park it was, but we were very courteous. We sat on a bench far away from everyone. And one of the funny things about Boston was in these parks, you see a bunch of groups of people, sitting on these little like tapestry looking carpets or whatever. And they're smoking, but they're not smoking, they're smoking pot all over the goddamn place. And so, we're looking like, people are smoking pot, whatever. So my brother, father, and I sit on a bench far away from even pot smokers. We're like on the edge, like literally the edge of the fence. Like we can touch the sidewalk, right? And we start lighting up cigars. Not even 5 minutes goes by, and a equestrian officer goes by us, and he's like, "You guys can't smoke in the park." And we're looking up, and we're like, "Really?" And again, like being a police family, we're not gonna say anything wrong to the officer, and we're like, "Okay, well, we'll make sure we put him out then, sir." And we just, as we're having this conversation, we're just looking at the vast of smoke coming up in the park everywhere, and it's all pot, and it's the guy doesn't necessarily care about them, but it's the cigar smoking was a problem. So obviously we put him out, but that's the culture of cigars. Like Massachusetts, I think still has some grandfathered, cigar people there. But the culture of cigar smoking there is completely dwindled. And you look at Boston, to a point Dave had mentioned earlier about like when we left England, like, like to me, Boston is a really spiritual city where like there's a lot of history there with freedom and patriotism and American, and seeing that something that really isn't a bad thing got shut off in a park like that when something, in my humble opinion, is a bad thing, is okay, being marijuana. Again, that's a different topic, but, it was just kind of a wake-up point for me, and I'm like, is this really a problem? But, it goes to mass dose of attacks. The political climate in Massachusetts is anti-cigar, and that's just how it is, so taxes to kill. And I witnessed it firsthand where this new coming thing, which is smoking marijuana, is accepted, where smoking a cigar is not accepted. So I couldn't be out in the public, essentially, smoking a cigar. I couldn't do it. So that it just piggybacks off the point of these private groups, because that's what it's doing to you. Like, you want to express, which I'm not going to go into First Amendment, freedom of expression,
well, those
or
people,
whatever,
Pat, were publicly medicating.
Yeah, but to me, to me, I find cigar smoking a avenue of expression. So I could do a complete separate argument on First Amendment, which it might get shot down if it went to the Supreme Court. But I really think that this is a form of expression. Side note on that. So before I go on a legal ramble, I'll go to the HVC event.
Thank you.
So I will say, like, when Lorenzo came and visited, I had a conversation with him, and I've also watched him on podcasts that were in the area, because he had visited a few shops when he was here. And that event is going to be absolutely amazing. He's one of those principled people that he's young, he's very passionate, and he's very open to talk about what he does. And like when I watched him on another podcast for 30 minutes, I learned so much about cigars, and he is a wealth of knowledge. And it's going to be like, he's doing the mojitos, but having the opportunity for people to come smoke his products and talk with him, it's going to be a completely different experience than what we've offered at Twins, because he's going to, I suspect he's going to be very tentative, and it's going to be a very informative experience, and it's going to be good. Like
I totally agree.
And even when we talked to him
awesome.
in the humidor that one day when he came in and we were planning this event, like he was just so excited and motivated to do this thing. And it's rejuvenating seeing a principal person come here, which we have other principals that come here that are the same way. Like,
Right.
Glenn Case, for example. But it's just I'm very excited to have him come here and have an event. It's unique that we're doing the brunch kind of style, but
Yep.
it's going to be it's one of those events coming up this year that you do not want to miss. It's not going to be a lot of money to go. It's going to just be a very good experience, and if you're a cigar smoker, like it's going to be a must go to event for sure.
And let's face it, getting a a full brunch with the coffee, the cigars, the mojito, and basically a guest speaker he's going to tell a story. He's going to talk about the cigars. It's going to be very informative. That's a lot for $40.
Mm-hmm.
And then
the value is totally there.
value is totally there, and people who are at the breakfast are going to have special deals on his product. There at the deck we'll have stuff for people to buy there, and one of the cigars you're going to be smoking is going to be special. It's still kind of up in the air. I mean, but he was throwing out maybe test marketing a cigar, or as yet unreleased product and stuff like that. So
That's excellent.
this is going to be really, really good. It is not just a buy, get your cigars, eat, and kind of go thing. This is going to be a real experience. And May out on the deck on a Saturday morning
It's beautiful.
is going to be awesome. And capping that around 12:30 or 1 o'clock with a mojito on the deck
Especially since I have Saturday.
is going to be fan-frickin-tastic. It's 30. It's limited to 30 people. The tickets have already started to go. You're going to want to get yours quick. Give a tobacconist here a call at Twins. Come in. There's not actual tickets. There's a list, but get your name on that list. Once we're full, because the deck can only hold so many people comfortably. That's it. So the first 30 people who we'll get that special time with him. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking around at us. We're really enjoying the cigar too. You're halfway done. I'm in my final third. Where are you at, Dave?
I'm in my final third.
You're in your final third too. What's our thought been on the cigars it's traveled? Has it stayed the same? Has it changed? Are you liking the pairing at all?
I feel like the flavors have really kind of melded together. The retro hail has toned down a lot. It's not so much of a pepper bomb anymore. I'm definitely not getting any of that metallicness anymore. It's got a rich kind of cedary, woody note on my palate, with a little bit of sweetness. As far as the pairing can go, personally, I didn't like the pairing that much. I thought it was okay, but I enjoyed the cigar more than the pairing. That's my 2 cents on it.
Patrick?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would add is the cigar's age, and or just to me, it hasn't changed too much. I think the pairing was fine with it. I had smoked this when it came out in 2020 because that was the first year I was here, and it's Black Friday. You have to smoke the Black Friday, right? So.
Yeah.
I remember the cigar was extremely spicy, which I think all the Black Fridays, in my opinion, are pretty spicy cigars. So like seeing what the around 3 years have done to the blend, it's really, and I think that's why, like David mentioned, it's got a lot more refined to his palate towards the back of the cigar. Because naturally, again, I don't know. If you asked him, he'll tell you, I'm sure, but I don't know what he does specifically with the tobacco that's in the blend. But I'm going to suspect that he has the Ligero and like the stronger tobaccos in the front of the cigar.
Yeah, I think so too.
So I think since we smoked kind of past that pepper bomb, I think the age is really speaking to the blend, and it's, to me, like the only thing I can add to the flavor wheel that I had mentioned earlier is I'm getting a little bit of anise and kind of a creamy almond cashew kind of nut mix. I can't really distinguish what the nut is, but it's very enjoyable. And again, the size of the cigar is my favorite size, so
yeah, Corona Gorda.
it's also
Great size.
his favorite size. But
Bree?
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
mediocre
yeah.
for me. It like
Mediocre.
The cigar, the pairing, or both?
I mean, like, everything. I think I'm going to call it standard. Like, it's a pretty standard, like, if you're coming in and you're smoking, you're drinking, you're not really thinking about it, you're just, you want, like, that standard, medium-bodied, easy-to-consume pairing. It's good. I did have my
it's
draw.
enjoyable.
My draw was a little bit tight, and I think I relit like once, and I'm gonna relight again right now. After the pepper bomb, it really did mellow out, and so it wasn't. I didn't love it, but it was also enjoyable.
Did you
if that
like it
makes
when
any
it was
sense.
more peppery?
Honestly, no. I'm glad that the pepper bomb
Yep.
got milder, but I can't say anything stood out to me specifically. Like, I enjoyed the
Alright.
pairing, I enjoyed the cigar, I enjoyed the drink, but nothing in particular stood out to me.
Pastor.
I thought it was a very good cigar. I can tell that it's been aged, and I think a lot of those flavors have kind of mellowed down since 2020. I was surprised after 3 years how peppery it was at the start. You know, that would be one of the things I would think really,
Wish we could save the
You know,
box and do it in a
cut.
couple more years.
cut down. That I remember it being peppery.
Side
I-
note,
so
the
I was-
other
I
one
was
you
kinda-
gave me had more pepper to it.
The other one had more
you know,
pepper to it.
Yeah, funny
So
enough.
there's variations in the box that way. I love the size. I haven't had any problems with the construction at all.
No, for me, the draw was a little tight, but not too tight.
Not terrible.
Not terrible.
My
yeah.
my
Now it's
draw
good.
was perfect on this cigar. If I relit it, it was because I was talking for long periods of time, and you just got to expect that.
Yeah.
But even so, the burn's been great on all of ours. There hasn't been any canoeing or lousy burning or things like that. The ash has been good. It got a little too long for Brie about halfway through the show.
See? Not thinking about it, just smoking, talking. Super easy.
I enjoyed the pairing too. I thought the Rye Manhattan was really, really good. I thought it brought out some nice, stronger cedar notes in the cigar. But I guess kind of like Dave, it was a good pairing, but it didn't wow me either.
Yeah. No, last week
each of
was
them
like,
were each of them were really great by themselves. They were good together. Would you?
Yeah, I would agree
Am
with
Am
that.
I
Yeah.
speaking out of turn?
That's where, yeah, I'd say I
Yeah.
stand.
We got anything else coming up?
For what? For
Events?
events? Well, the weekend before, we have Eric Stokeby coming on the 13th of May. So the Saturday before. Eric is a great friend of Twins. We have as you know, a big pipe community here.
Yep.
And Eric Stokeby is the owner of Fourth Generation Tobacconist Pipes and Tobaccos. And we do a great yearly event with him. And it's called Day of the Danes Resolution.
Nice.
And Day of the Danes, he's Danish. This is also going to be featuring Nording Pipes, who is also a Dane himself, hence the Day of the Danes. Resolution refers to Stokeby's small batch release this year, which is a collaboration with Cornell and Deal and Jeremy Reeves. That's called Resolution. We're going to be featuring each of the last small batch releases. Petey, Kentucky,
Should ask Jeremy if he wants to come.
Jerobeam Flake, and then the this year's small batch, the Resolution, along with some cocktails at the bar, Carlsberg beer. There's going to be roasted meats. It's kind of a Viking Danish theme to it.
We're gonna have that.
We're
We're gonna have the swords on the table again.
We might have the swords. Pat and I would have to coordinate that and see if I haven't asked him about that yet.
That's
But
definitely cool.
anything's a possibility. But it's going to be a great show.
Excellent.
I'll be out of town for that.
That's too bad. That's too bad. So that's what's coming up in May. Twins.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very good.
And that's pretty much our show, guys. So thanks for being with us tonight. If you get a chance to try one of these, you should. When they're gone, because they haven't been produced since 2020. We have some at Twins. I don't know if there's any left after the show here, because we got people here in the audience that have been smoking them too. So get them if you can. Make sure you get a ticket to that event.
Yes.
With Rainier Lorenzo. It's going to be awesome. May 20th, 11 o'clock, here at Twins, out on the deck. The pancake brunch. It's going to be fantastic. $40, 30 people limit. It's going to be a great time. We'll see you next week, next Tuesday, 8 o'clock. Don't be late. That's Not Just Blowing Smoke. You've been listening to Not Just Blowing Smoke, the podcast that brings the wealth of knowledge, expertise, and fun of Twins Smoke Shop, New England's premier smoke shop, right to you, wherever you are, whenever you want it. You can find us at our website, notjustblowingsmoke.com, and keep in touch with us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram at Not Just Blowing Smoke. Thanks for listening, everybody, and that is Not Just Blowing Smoke.
Rolling with the top down.